What's going on, everyone? It's Ben from YGO from Zero, back with another treasure format video. And in this video, we're going to be covering a deck that I've been looking forward to covering for quite some time, and that's Relinquished. Now, Magic Ruler introduced a lot of new cards to the game, and one of the things it introduced was a new summoning mechanic, ritual summoning. However, a lot of ritual summons are actually not worth bringing out because they just cost too many resources to bring out on the field, and they basically just serve as big beat sticks that are easily removable when they're out there. Relinquished is basically the one exception, and that's why I think this deck is so cool, because it's basically the only deck of its type that's worth playing. But before we dive in to what makes Relinquished worth playing over the other ritual monsters, if you're not already subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing. We're only 15 subscribers away from reaching 400 subscribers, which is my goal for this month. So if you're not already subscribed, please do so. In addition, if you want to try out these formats for yourself, we've got a Discord server, link will be in the description down below, but it's a great place to play people and explore these formats that aren't really played anywhere else. And lastly, if you enjoyed this video, as always, please leave a like down below. But now that that's all out of the way, let's dive in to what makes Relinquished special. So every other ritual monster released up to this point is basically just a big beat stick, and oftentimes their attacks aren't even anything too impressive. Relinquished, however, while it doesn't have a big attack and defense, has a killer effect that makes it really cool. Basically, it can target a monster your opponent controls and equip it to itself, and it gains attack and defense based on what that monster's attack and defense are, and also if it would be destroyed by battle while equipped to a monster, the equipped monster is destroyed instead, and your opponent takes any battle damage that you take from that battle as well. Now this sort of helps it equalize the cost it takes to bring it out onto the field, as it's basically a form of removal. It can suck up your opponent's monsters, and there's no real way to get that monster back after it's sucked up. So while it does cost a couple cards to bring it out, it's also costing your opponent a card as well, most likely. And in addition, if you can keep it around and keep using its effect to suck things up, then it can more than make up for the resources that you put into it. There are also plenty of ways to sort of facilitate getting the combo to your hand. Of course, Relinquished is a monster with 0 in attack and defense, which can be easily searched out with like a Sangan or Witch of the Black Forest, and we are playing 4 copies of those. But there are some other monsters from Magic Ruler that also help facilitate this sort of ritual strategy. Sonic Bird is a 1400 attack point monster that, when it's normal and flip summoned, lets you search a ritual spell from your deck to hand, which is important as Relinquished can only be summoned out by activating Black Illusion Ritual, which basically attributes a level 1 or higher monster to bring Relinquished out. And also Senju of the Thousand Hand, which, when it's normal or flip summoned, searches out a ritual monster from your deck to your hand. So this can enable you to get Relinquished from your deck to your hand in a way that also provides you with material on field to tribute off for Black Illusion Ritual, which is a slight advantage that it has over something like a Sangan or a Witch. In addition, it provides even more deck thinning, as if you use a Sangan or a Witch to search out a Senju, and then use Senju to search out a Relinquished, you've basically gone through a couple cards in your deck, thinned it out a little bit, and made it more likely that you'll get better draws later on in the game. Of course, we're not just playing cards to facilitate the ritual combo, we're also playing just generic good stuff like Mystic Tomato, which when it's destroyed by battle replaces itself with another dark monster, and can be used to bring out something like Sangan or a Witch, which is very useful in a lot of situations. We're also playing 3 copies of Mechanical Chaser as just a very aggressive card. It's the beat stick of choice this format, given that's the level 4 monster with the highest amount of attack, and that can be very good. Lastly, we're also playing 3 Magician of Faith to recycle our powerful spells. This can be used to cycle something like a Black Illusion Ritual, but honestly, it's not really worth it, as you're playing 2 Relinquished to go with the 2 Black Illusion Rituals, so you'll never really need an extra copy. You're also playing 2 Sonic Birds to search those out, so it's not really necessary. There are, however, a lot of extremely powerful spells that you would want to get back with Magician of Faith. Of course, we've got the original Power 5 limited spells, Change of Heart, Dark Hole, Monster Reborn, Pot of Greed, and Raigeki, all the way back from Yugi Kaiba format. Incredibly strong cards that can really turn the tide of the game in your favor. But in addition, we've also got the 3 hand rips from Magic Ruler, Forceful Sentry, Confiscation, Delinquent Duo, all very strong at sort of demolishing your opponent's hand and giving you knowledge of what they've got. And we've also got another limited spell from Magic Ruler, Snatch Steal, which can be very good at taking one of your opponent's monsters and going for a super aggressive push. Lastly, for the spells, we also have 3 Mystical Space Typhoon, which is our spell and trap removal of choice in this deck. I think that Mystical Space Typhoon is incredibly strong at just being able to snipe your opponent's traps during their turn, so that way they won't be able to chain them in response, and also being able to stop something like a Snatch Steal. I think that heavy could also be good in this deck, as it enables you to clear whatever monster your Relinquished is equipped with and potentially suck up another one, while also just massively blowing out your opponent's back row. But I do like the flexibility that Mystical Space Typhoon provides, and that's why we're playing it in the main deck over a heavy. For the trap lineup, we've of course got a Mirror Force, insanely strong card in this format if you're actually able to pull it off. We've got 3 Solemn Judgment, as the deck can be a bit fragile, as Relinquished doesn't have protection from effects. So, your opponent does have multiple ways to get rid of it. So I think the Solemns are good to stop your opponent from doing any super big plays. And lastly, we have 3 Wuboku, which I really do like in this deck, as oftentimes your opponent will try and clear whatever monster is equipped to Relinquish with spell and trap removal and then attack into it. Wuboku can help stop that, as you can flip Wuboku and your Relinquish doesn't have an equip card anymore, so you can then equip another monster that your opponent has on the next turn. So while Wuboku's gotten a lot worse this format in my opinion, I think it is still very good in this deck. For the side deck, we've got a Cannon Soldier, which I think honestly you could maybe bring into the main, as Cannon Soldier is just a super powerful card in general. But this is good to bring in against slower decks, that you can just sort of set up a Cannon Soldier and just tribute off your monsters to provide steady damage against. We also have 3 Jiraigumo in case we need to get a bit more aggressive here, 3 Maneater Bug if we need more removal, and we also have 3 True Nade and 2 Heavy Storm to act as more spell and trap removal. This can be very good against things like Burn or even Mill. And speaking of being good against Burn or Mill, we also have 3 Tribute to the Doomed, specifically for those decks, as those decks really live or die by their flip monsters. Relinquished is generally good against decks that want to set a lot of monsters anyways, as it can suck them up, preventing them from getting their effects off. But it's good to have another option in the side deck if you need it. But that's going to do it for the deck. There are a lot of different ways that you can build this. I think that you can also potentially up the number of copies of Relinquished and Black Illusion Ritual if you want, as it is a very powerful card. But this is just the way that we've built it. So let's see how it works out for us in some games. Okay, we've got some games against Aratos here, who is a very good duelist in this format. So it's always exciting to have them on. Unclear what they're playing. We're playing Relinquished, so let's see how this game goes. We're going to wing the rock, paper, scissors, which is very nice in this format, given all the hand rips. So let's hope that we draw some first turn. We do draw Duo first thing, and we also draw Pot of Greed, which is pretty insane. We'll be able to get a fair amount of card advantage off this. So we're going to Pot of Greed first, and then we're going to fire the Delinquent Duo, hitting 2 cards out of their hand. Mystic Tomato is a good hit, and Faith is another one. They must not have too many spells if they're discarding Faith this early. We don't really have a monster though, so we're just going to set the Mystical Space Typhoon and the Wuboku, pass back to them. We could also set a Judgment to prepare against something like a Heavy Storm, but honestly we're okay if they heavy this board, as we can just chain the Wuboku. So we're just going to leave it like this. They're going to Heavy Storm indeed. We are going to Wuboku that. So we will lose our Mystical Space Typhoon, which is unfortunate, but they can't really get aggressive here. They're just going to set 2 and pass. We draw Change of Heart, which is not really useful right now. We'll just set all of the traps in our hand, pass back to them. If they've got Duo, this is really unfortunate, but I think that we want to keep our Mirror Force online for when we need it. And so setting it among 3 makes it less likely that they're going to fire a blind MST on this. They're going to flip up Sangan, and we could potentially Solemn this just to cut them off from more monsters, but we are going to let that go through. And we will take 1,000 damage here, dropping down to 6,000. They're going to set another pass back to us, and we draw Mechanical Chaser, which is really nice. We'll bring that out. Try hitting in to the Sangan here. They do have Mirror Force. We're going to think about this as we don't really have any monsters, so we might want to keep that Mechanical Chaser on field. However, since they're just going to get a replacement for the Sangan anyways, we figure, okay, we'll let the Mechanical Chaser die and see what happens. They are going to Forceful Sentry, unfortunately, so they will be able to take a card from our hand. They're going to take the Change of Heart, which makes sense, so the Change of Heart is incredibly powerful here. And they're going to attack in with the Sangan. They now know we're on Relinquished, but honestly, we don't have a ritual spell. We don't have anything to tribute off of that, so I don't think there's anything for them to be concerned about here. We draw Magician of Faith, which is very nice. That could get us back a Pot of Greed. We're going to set it, pass back to them. If they've got Change of Heart or Raigeki, we've got Solemns for that, so we're fine with this. They're going to attack in. We will get back the Pot of Greed off the Magician of Faith, as we really need to draw some monsters, or just anything that can enable us to go into Relinquish anytime soon. They're just going to set one pass back to us. We draw another Magician of Faith, which is very nice. We could potentially be able to recycle the Pot of Greed again. And we actually draw Black Illusion Ritual, which is really good. Now we could potentially pull off Relinquished here. We're just going to think about this for a bit because we could go for Relinquished now, potentially suck up whatever their set is, as that could be a Magician of Faith getting back a Heavy or a Forceful. But we figure that since we have the Solemn set, you know, it might not be worth doing that. We could just set the Magician of Faith, try to get back the Pot of Greed, and get deeper into our deck. It looks like we're going to Reborn the Mechanical Chaser here, and we're just going to attack into the set. So it looks like we're not actually going to go for the Relinquish this turn. We're just going to set the Magician of Faith, pass back to them. Again, we do have 2 Solemn to back this up, so if they do have like a Raigeki or Dark Hole, we can prevent that. And if they've got a Change of Heart, we can prevent that as well. They're just going to set another, switch the Sangan defense, pass back to us. And now we can potentially get a pretty good play here. We're going to flip up Magician of Faith. They're going to be fine with that. We're going to get the Duo, actually. So this way, when we attack into the Sangan, we can then discard whatever they search out. We're then going to Black Illusion Ritual, tributing off our spent Magician of Faith for this Relinquish here. We'll take their set, and that will just be the end of the game. They see the writing on the wall. With 2 Solemns additionally, it was very unlikely that they would have had any way to get out of that situation. So I think that makes sense. But, you know, I think that game, even though we won it, shows some of the major flaws with Relinquished. If you don't draw monsters that actually do anything, then the Relinquished parts of your deck can just be a brick. And while we are playing a lot of cards to sort of counterbalance that, it can make for some tough times. And I think that game could have easily gone a different way if we didn't draw the Faiths to recycle the pot. But we are going to go into game 2, and I don't think we really mix anything up. We haven't really seen what sort of deck they're on. It seems like they might just be on good stuff here. So they're just going to set 2 and pass back to us. We're just going to bring out a Mystic Tomato that will unfortunately get Trap Hold, but that was basically our only play. We're just going to set a Waboku, pass back to them. They're going to flip up a Witch, and that's fine by us. They'll attack in for 11. We could activate Waboku here, but there's no real point to use it yet. They're just going to set 2, pass back to us. We draw a Witch, so we're just going to set the Witch, pass back to them. They are going to flip up the Maneater Bug to pop the Witch. That's perfectly fine by us. We can get a Sonic Bird here to search out the Ritual spell, and potentially get our Relinquished online. They're going to attack in for 1550, it looks like. And we are going to take it all. Again, we don't need to use the Waboku here. They're going to set 1, pass back to us. We draw Change of Heart, which means that we could Change of Heart one of their monsters to tribute off for the Black Illusion Ritual, potentially. But first things first, we got to bring out Sonic Bird to search out the Illusion Ritual. So we do indeed manage to do that. And it looks like we're actually going to Snatch Steal one of their cards to Illusion Ritual it. I'm not sure how I feel about that. I think maybe we could have save the Snatch Steal for a more important target, but I guess we do have the Magician of Faith in hand to recycle it, so we might just want to get a card engraved for that. And we're just going to attack in for 2500 here, hopefully. Unfortunately, they do have Waboku, so we're just going to pass back to them. They've got Heavy. We can chain Waboku there, but they still will get a search off of the Witch. However, they can't actually hit into our Relinquished and kill it, which means that we will be able to suck up any monster that they bring out here until they Snatch Steal the Relinquished, so this will enable them to get the Sonic Bird equipped to it. They're going to set 1, pass back to us, and we're in really dire straits here, as we really wanted our Relinquished to be able to suck something up. And now the shoe is sort of on the other foot here. We're going to actually Change of Heart their set, hoping that it's like a Magician of Faith. Unfortunately, it's just the Sangan that they searched. So, you know, we'll attack into our Relinquished. They will get a search there. They're going to search Cannon Soldier. And main 2, we're just going to set the Magician of Faith, set a Waboku, pass back to them. This is really worrying. They're going to Mystical Space Typhoon our back row, so we will chain Waboku to it, luckily. And they're going to Raigeki our board away, which is really unfortunate. They're going to set one of their own, pass back to us. We will gain another 1000 here, but there's not really much we can do that's pretty good. I mean, we could bring out the Sonic Bird, crash into Relinquish potentially, just to get it down to 0-0, but I think that's honestly pretty bad. And, you know, I don't know. I don't think it's really worth it. We deck thin a little bit, but I think that we just need to get a good card here. But unfortunately, we're not getting anything. They get back the Raigeki. They will Raigeki our Sangan. And we're going to grab a witch just to keep the recruiter chain going. They're going to bring out a cannon soldier and get in for a ton of damage here. Main 2, they're going to tribute off the Magician of Faith, and they're actually going to think about whether to tribute off the Relinquished or not, as it is a very problematic card for us. But they are indeed going to tribute it off and deal another 500. They're going to set one more and pass back to us. We draw Mechanical Chaser, so we could go for that. We check to see what they've got engraved. They've only used up one trap hole, so they likely could have others, so it might be a bit of a risk. We're going to think about it, though, and we are going to go for that risk. Luckily, it pays out. They don't actually have a trap hole for us here. We're going to attack in, and that will connect, so we will be able to get in 450 there. They're going to set one pass back to us. We draw a Mystic Tomato. We're going to bring out a witch and just try attacking in here, and that will go through, so they'll be able to bring out a witch of their own. And we're going to think about whether we actually want to crash here or not. I feel like we probably don't, because then they'll be able to get a monster to hand and have the initiative next turn. So I think we're just going to pass back to them. They can definitely crash their witch into our witch if they want, but it looks like they don't want to do that, so we're fine with that. We draw a Senju, so we've got two ways to get to 2 pieces of our ritual combo here if we want them, and we are indeed going to go for one. We're going to summon out Sonic Bird, get a Black Illusion ritual to hand, maybe set up for a Relinquished play in the next turn. We're going to think about this a bit, and I think we probably should switch a monster defense here just in case that new set is Mirror Force, but we're going to get greedy and go for it. Unfortunately, they do have the Mirror Force here. We will search out a Relinquished, so that way we can bring out the Relinquished in our main phase 2 to then suck up that witch and hopefully protect ourselves a little bit. We'll pass back to them, and they are going to Mystical Space Typhoon the witch, which likely will probably be the end of the game. Effectively, they're going to bring out the Sangam with the witch, and they will attack into Relinquished, so we lose a very powerful monster there. We draw Reborn, though, which could potentially get us back into the game. We ask in the chat whether, you can actually reborn a ritual monster that's been summoned out correctly with this ritual mechanic, and we think that we can, so we go for it. But, if we're wrong, let us know down in the comments down below. And we just bring out the Mystic Tomato, bring out the Relinquished here. And I think we could have actually brought out the Relinquished in attack just to get in here for an additional 1,000. Because they've used up Mirror Force already. But I guess we want to protect our life points a little bit. They do have Heavy, though, and I guess this is another reason to keep the Relinquished in defense in case they did have a way to search a monster here. And they will attack in with the Mechanical Chaser, clearing the Relinquished. They do have a Fisher for the Mystic Tomato, and we're in a really tough spot. We draw Magician of Faith, which is extremely good, so that might help us out of this jam a little bit. They're going to attack into the Faith. We will get back a Reborn, likely to suck up another set with the Relinquished that we can get back here. They are going to set one, set another, pass back to us. We draw another Magician of Faith, which is a very good draw here. We're going to Reborn, target the Relinquished, and try and take control of their Magician of Faith there. We're going to set a Magician of Faith of our own and pass back to them. They do have a Mystical Space Typhoon to deal with the Magician of Faith, so they will be able to attack into the Relinquished here, but luckily we can get it back with the Magician of Faith we have set. So we are going to flip out that Magician of Faith, grab another Reborn, and get back that Relinquished. We are going to use Relinquished to suck up the set monster. I think they might have... Oh, they've only gone through 2 Magician of Faith, so I think this is the correct thing to do here. So we'll suck it up. It's just a Man-Eater bug. And we're just going to set the Mirror Force, pass back to them. They're going to try attacking in to the Magician of Faith here, and we are indeed going to Mirror Force that. Main 2, they're just going to set one, pass back to us. And we're going to switch the Relinquished to attack in, try and deal some reciprocal damage here. And it is, unfortunately, a Magician of Faith of their own. They're going to grab back Raigeki. We do have Forceful Sentry to shuffle that back into the deck, though. But it's still not the best situation here. They're going to draw, set one, pass back to us. We draw Dark Hole, which isn't the best right now, as we have more monsters on board. They're going to set another, pass back to us. We draw Solemn, which can be pretty nice, so we'll set that for later. And they're going to activate Pot of Greed. We know that they've got a Raigeki back in deck because we shuffled it in with the Forceful, and it looks like they do indeed draw it. We could potentially Solemn this, and it looks like we will indeed do that just in case. But I think there's an argument there not to as well, as, they would have had to have a way to deal the remaining, like, 2150 to us, which is not the most likely thing in the world. But we're going to bring out a Sandgan, which should be able to clear that Magician of Faith. So we will clear it. We'll just set the Dark Hole, figuring that they don't have much spell and trap removal left here. And they're just going to set 2 and pass back to us. We draw a Senju, which is pretty nice. We're going to think about what to do here. We are going to bring out the Senju, and we don't actually have any relinquished targets yet, as both of them are in grave. So, you know, we're just going to attack him with the Senju here. It is a Mystic Tomato, so they'll be able to bring out another Mystic Tomato. So we'll just switch these Sandgan into defense, pass back to them. This is a very dangerous situation, though, as if they attack into the Senju, they can get out another monster. So it looks like they are going to do that. They will search out a Mass Sorcerer here, which is very worrying. They're going to attack into the Sandgan, and we will grab a Mystic Tomato of our own here. Main 2, they're going to activate Duo, so they will be able to snipe whatever we searched out of our hand, and they'll pass back to us. We draw another Solemn Judgment, which isn't the best, but it provides us with a little bit more insulation here. They're going to attack in to the Magician of Faith with the Mass Sorcerer, and we draw a third Solemn Judgment? No, the second Solemn Judgment, because this is a Dark Hole. That is fine by us. If they clear the Relinquished next turn, then we can activate Dark Hole. Unfortunately, they do have Fisher here, so we will actually Solemn that. They're going to activate 7 tools in response, and we're going to activate yet another Solemn. So this will drop us down to an incredibly low amount here, which is very, very precarious. If they have a way to get Cannon Soldier online, then we just lose the game here. And they are going to Change of Heart our Relinquished, which will let them just attack in for the remaining 900 off the Sorcerer. And so that will indeed just be the end of the game. So that one was a bit of a grind that we ended up losing there. But I think it showed how annoying the deck can be to deal with in certain situations. Relinquished, if you don't have good ways to deal with it, can really be an annoying monster when it hits the field. Just being able to continually suck up your monsters. And being able to recycle it repeatedly with the Magician of Faith was just really devastating there. Now you could argue that maybe that wasn't the optimal play, that there could have been other things to do that would have been better with the Magician of Faith, but I liked that a lot, and it didn't end up working for us, but it was still pretty cool while it lasted. We are going to go into Game 3 now, though, and I don't really think we have any specific side deck things here, as it does seem like they're just on good stuff. They did probably side in those counter traps for our counter traps, so maybe we could have sided something in against those, but I feel fine with the deck as it is. We are going to Confiscation first turn, so we get to look at their hand and discard something here. This is a pretty good hand, though, especially given what our hand is. These 2 Mechanical Chasers don't really go too well with the trap holes there. Change of Heart's very good, but there's nothing really too good to Change of Heart here. If we send the Change of Heart, then they can just set the Magician. We could always Change of Heart the Magician, but, you know, they could just set the Sandgan instead. Sandgan could be another option to send, as, you know, it being able to search a monster from deck is really annoying. That might actually be the choice. We do send the Magician of Faith, though. I think maybe we should have sent the Sandgan instead, but we made our choice, and we're sticking by it. We're just going to set 3 here, pass back to them, as there are more hand rips in the deck than heavies, so we're choosing to play around the hand rips instead of the heavies. And it looks like they're just going to set 3 of their own, pass back to us. We draw a Man-Eater Bug. We're just going to bring out a Mechanical Chaser to try baiting out one of those trap holes, and it does get baited out. We are going to attack in with our Mechanical Chaser, and they will be able to search the deck. They'll grab a Man-Eater Bug there, which will be able to deal with our Mechanical Chaser, unfortunately. They're going to set 1, set another, pass back to us, and I think, honestly, we might want to use the Change of Heart here to take that Man-Eater Bug, if it is indeed a Man-Eater Bug, as we do want to keep our Mechanical Chaser online. It looks like we are indeed going to do that, and it is just the bug, so we will be able to attack in for 1850 here. We do have the Magician of Faith to cycle the Change of Heart later, but I don't think we want to commit to board because we do know about their Change of Heart, and that could be pretty bad for us. They're going to send another, pass back to us. We draw Relinquished, which is a bit of a brick here, but luckily we don't really need it right now. So we're just going to attack in for another 1850. They're going to set 1, pass back to us. We draw Black Illusion Ritual, which is pretty nice. We will indeed fire it, bring out a Relinquished, and trying to suck up their monster here. We bring out in defense mode, as, you know, we'll have 0 attack and defense, and we don't want it to die to like a Mirror Force potentially. So we are going to attack in for 1850 here and pass back to them. They're going to Mystical Space Typhoon. Oh, wow. They've got 3 Mystical Space Typhoons. So we will be able to chain Waboku here, but they will be able to snipe our other 2. They're going to Change of Heart, targeting that Relinquished. So they will be able to take the Mechanical Chaser and prevent us from sucking something up here. We do have Woboku on a field, but they're just going to attack anyways. And we will get the Relinquished back, so we'll just attack in for 1850 here. That does connect, so it looks like they might not have much left. They draw, they activate Dark Hole, so they are able to clear the board here. They'll pass back to us. We draw Pot of Greed, so let's just hope we draw a monster. Sonic Bird is a monster, so that will be able to do it. Unfortunately, they do have Trap Hole. We still get our search, though, because the summon was not negated. We'll set a Woboku, pass back to them. They're going to Heavy Storm. We're going to chain Woboku there. We do lose Duo, but that wasn't really doing anything for us anyways. And we draw a Mystic Tomato, which we are just going to bring out and attack into their set with. It's a Mystic Tomato of their own, so they will be able to get a search here. And they're going to bring out a Castle of Dark Illusions, likely to go a bit more defensive here as they are at very low life. We're going to pass back to them, and they're going to activate Reborn, targeting our Relinquished, so that way they can suck up the Mystic Tomato here. So they will be able to get in for 1400. And they're going to pass back to us. We draw Dark Hole, though, so we will be able to Dark Hole the board away. And that is indeed what we do here. And we're going to actually set the Magician of Faith. We could have summoned it just to put them on a 2-turn clock, but I think we get more value out of this. And we know that they've got a Change of Heart engraved, so there's not really much they can do against this. They're going to set one, pass back to us. We draw Magician of Faith, which will basically be the end of the game. We will Magician of Faith back a Change of Heart. Change of Heart there set, and that will just be the end of the game. So I think that this game did show off how strong Relinquished can be when everything goes right for it. But, you know, a lot of things really did go right for it. Like this last game, our opponent didn't really draw any ways to out-Mechanical Chaser. And I wouldn't say that we won that game on Relinquished merits by any means. We did manage to suck up a Magician of Faith with the Relinquished, which was very nice. And could have potentially turned the game if they had gotten back a powerful spell from Grave. But, you know, a fair amount of our victory here, I think, did come down to luck. I still think it made for some very interesting games to watch, though. And I think that this deck is really cool. So I actually do have another game to show you as well. Again, against Aratos with the same decks. We played this immediately after the first one. So let's dive into that. Okay, we've got the rematch against Aratos here. And we're both playing the same decks. So, you know, no real surprises there. They're on good stuff. We're on Relinquished. Let's see if we can manage to scrape out another victory again. So this would have been a great hand to go first with the Forceful Sentry there. Unfortunately, we are not going first. But luckily, you know, it looks like they don't have any hand rips to capitalize on it here. We're going to bring out a Senju, search out a Relinquished from deck, and we're just going to attack into their set. If it's like a Sangan or a Witch, then we get an extra target off our Forceful Sentry. Unfortunately for us, it's just a Mystic Tomato, which pairs very well against the Senju here. We will Forceful Sentry here, and so we will get to see their hand. They've got a Sangan, Maneater, Cannon Soldier, and Mystical Space Typhoon. There's nothing like too insanely powerful here that we necessarily want to spin back, but Sangan is probably the best choice. I mean, they could just get out another one with the Mystic Tomato, I guess. Yeah, Mystical Space Typhoon, maybe. I don't know. It's a very tricky one. We are going to spin back the Sangan, even though they can get another Recruiter out here. You know, at least this way they don't have access to 2 Recruiters at once. So, I don't know. Kind of iffy there. Maybe would have switched that up in the future, but that's what we're playing. So, that's what we're doing. They are going to crash their Mystic Tomato into our Senju. We could actually have activated Woboku there if we wanted to, but, you know, I think I'm fine letting the Senju die. They're going to bring out a Mass Sorcerer, and I think now might be a good time to Woboku, and indeed we do, to prevent them from getting the draw there. They're going to set one, pass back to us. We draw Snatch Steal, which could be pretty good. We're going to Change of Heart targeting their set, and it is just a Witch. So we're just going to bring out a Sangan in addition and just get aggressive here. They are going to take that, so they're going to drop down to 6,800. And we're just going to pass back to them. We know about the Mystical Space Typhoon in hand, so there's no real reason to set the Snatch Steal right now. They're going to attack into our Sangan here. We will take 100, and we will get a search here. So I think we'll probably search Sonic Bird, and indeed we do, just to get the Ritual spell online. Main 2, they're just going to set one, pass back to us. And we're just going to go for the Sonic Bird. So we'll get the Black Illusion Ritual out here. And we're just going to attack into that set because we do know that they do have Maneater. And this way we can potentially clear away the Maneater so that way our Relinquished is home free. they will indeed pop our Sonic Bird with the Maneater. We'll just set the Solemn Judgment here, hoping to bait out the Mystical Space Typhoon potentially, and they're going to attack in with the Witch. They will not take the bait, it looks like, which is unfortunate, as we would like our Snap Steel to go through, but they will just set one and pass. We're going to bring out a Mechanical Chaser. That will die to a Trap Hole. And this is a bit of a thinker. We could go for the Snap Steel here and try and Black Illusion Ritual out of Relinquished to suck up their set. But that's asking for a lot of commitment, and we do know that they do have Mystical Space Typhoon. It could be the card that they set there. So we are just going to pass back to them. They will Mystical Space Typhoon or Solemn Judgment, and they are able to flip up a Magician of Faith. However, they didn't really have many good targets in grave, just a Mystical Space Typhoon. So they'll just be able to get that back. They're going to bring out a Cannon Soldier and go for a ton of damage here. They're going to tribute off the Magician of Faith for the Cannon Soldier, and that is quite unfortunate. We're going to try Snap Stealing the Cannon Soldier, but they do indeed have the Mystical Space Typhoon for that. So we can't take a free Black Illusion Ritual fodder here. We're just going to set a Woboku. They're going to try attacking in for 25, but that would be the end of the game because they can distribute their board away with Cannon Soldier afterwards. So we will activate Woboku to protect ourselves here. They're going to switch the Witch to defense, set another pass back to us, and Mystic Tomato is arguably the best draw on our deck in this situation. We're going to bring it out, and we're going to try attacking into the Cannon Soldier. That will succeed, so we'll be able to get out another monster from deck. We're just going to get out a Witch, and we're going to attack into their set. It's a Sangan, unfortunately, so they will be able to get out a Mass Sorcerer here. But in main phase 2, we can tribute off the Witch to bring out a Relinquished here. We can search a Senju of the Thousand Hands with that, and we can suck up their Witch. And hopefully that will be enough to protect us for one turn. They're going to set one pass back to us, and we draw Mystical Space Typhoon, which is pretty good. We're going to bring out Senju, which will enable us to search the Relinquished here, and we are indeed going to tribute off the Senju for the Relinquished, suck up their set just in case it's like a Magician of Faith or something, and indeed it is. We're going to switch our Relinquished to attack in for 11. And then main phase 2, we're just going to pass back to them. If they've got a Heavy Storm, that's unfortunate, but they can only clear one of our Relinquished with that, so we will be able to suck up a monster next turn, potentially. They're going to set one pass back to us. We draw a Solemn, which is pretty nice. And we're actually going to Mystical Space Typhoon the Magician of Faith, so that way we can suck up another monster with this Relinquished here. We're going to attack in for 1100, and then main 2, we're just going to set the Solemn, pass back to them. They're going to set one, set another, pass back to us, and we draw a Magician of Faith, which is pretty good. We're just going to actually switch the Relinquished to defense, as we do know that they've searched out a Mass Sorcerer, so no real need to attack into it. We're just going to set a Magician of Faith, pass back to them, and they're going to flip up a Magician of Faith, grab that Mystical Space Typhoon. We could potentially have Solemned the Magician of Faith here, as with that Mystical Space Typhoon, they'll be able to clear one of our Relinquished, and we don't necessarily want them to be able to clear one of our Relinquished. In addition, if they pop the Witch of the Black Forest here, they will get a search on top of that. So this is a very good argument for actually Solemning the Magician of Faith, which may sound really crazy when they're just getting back a Mystical Space Typhoon, but I think it could have been the correct play there. Unfortunately, we do not do that. And they will just grab back that Mystical Space Typhoon, and they will indeed pop the Witch. We think about this here, actually, because with the Magician of Faith in attack, we could actually switch our Relinquished to attack and attack into it to clear the equipped card to it, and then suck up another monster. So it could be correct to Solemn this. However, we don't do it, and we do let them get a search, so they will be able to search a Sangan here. They will be able to clear the Relinquished, set one, pass back to us. We will be able to potentially suck that up after we use the Magician of Faith to get back a Change of Heart. And we are just going to attack into that Magician of Faith. Take 300, they'll take 300 as well. Pop the Maneater Bug there. We'll crash our Magician of Faith into their Magician of Faith just so they can't attack into the Magician of Faith with a Mass Sorcerer, or potentially tribute off their Magician of Faith for another Cannon Soldier. And main phase 2 will suck up that set. It is the Mass Sorcerer, which is pretty nice. We'll set another Solemn and pass back to them. They're going to set one, set another, pass back to us. And we draw Mirror Force, which is pretty decent. We're going to actually Change of Heart their set there, flip it up. It's a Sangan, so we'll just be able to get in 1,000 here instead of getting a flip effect off. But we'll pass back to them. They'll take back the Sangan. And we could potentially just get in for damage each turn by attacking into a defense position Sangan here, which would be pretty nice. They're going to switch the Sangan to defense, and we draw a Witch, so luckily we don't have to do that. We're just going to set the Witch, however. I guess we don't necessarily want to give them a search here. And they're just going to set one and pass back to us. We draw Confiscation, which does enable us to attack into the Sangan more confidently, as we'll be able to snipe whatever they search with the Sangan there. So we are going to activate a Confiscation, pay 1,000, and we will indeed get to snipe a card out of their hand. And those are some really good ones. Reborn can just get back whatever monster we snipe, so that might be the correct choice here. We don't really have any cards in hand, so Forceful is kind of dead. And I'm not too worried about Mechanical Chaser because we do have the Mirror Force. So we're actually going to take the Witch, I guess because we can Solemn the Reborn. So we figure that it's better to just take the monster they could set instead. And it looks like they're just going to summon out a Mechanical Chaser, try and attacking into our Witch. I think that could be fine. Oh, it looks like we're going to Mirror Force it just to keep the aggressive pressure on board, I guess. And we will be able to attack in with this Witch here, getting in for 1,100. We'll set the Magician of Faith as we didn't see any board clears in their hand, and we do have 2 Solemns to deal with that board clear if they've got one. And they're going to Mystical Space Typhoon one of our Solemns, which is quite unfortunate. They'll bring out a Mechanical Chaser here and attack into our Witch. We will take 750, but we will get a search here, so we'll search out a Mechanical Chaser of our own. And they will Forceful Sentry that back into the deck, so it didn't really matter that much. But we do draw a monster instead, so, you know, it doesn't really matter too much. We can't crash in their Mechanical Chaser, but we can Magician of Faith back something that can deal with it anyways. We're going to grab a Mystical Space Typhoon, so that way we can pop the equip on our Relinquished. We will Relinquished, take their Mechanical Chaser here, and we could just go for lethal, but we're actually just going to go for 2150. Just in case they've got like a Mirror Force or a Wuboku, and they do indeed have a Wuboku. So I'm glad we did that. We're going to set the Tomato here. They do have Reborn. We will Solemn that, dropping down to 725. And we just gotta hope the last card in hand is not a monster that can beat over Magician. Luckily, it is not. So we will be able to switch the Magician to defense here. We're going to bring out a Mechanical Chaser. They will trap hole that. We're going to try flipping up Mystical Tomato, and they will trap hole that as well. So we'll only be able to get in for 1850 here. I guess we could have gotten in for that extra 300 with the Magician, but that would have been opening us up to a potential lethal push on their part, so I didn't feel the need to do that. And luckily it looks like the remaining card that they drew didn't actually deal with that board, so they will admit defeat there. Now, I think that game really showed off the strength that Relinquished can have and how annoying it can be to deal with. Having 2 Relinquished on board and being able to pop the equips each time to then suck up whatever other monster they brought out was really, really powerful. And I think is a great example of what this deck can do when it's firing on all cylinders. So I'm really happy with how that game turned out. Let's see if game 2 goes any better. I will mention though that while I was playing the deck in the moment, it felt really precarious, right? If they drew any board clear there and they had like counter traps for our Solemns, then we were in a really tough spot. So while it may seem sort of effortless here in the replays, the deck is very hard to pilot and can be very scary to play, as, you know, it is very fragile, as the Relinquished can just be removed through so many different ways. So game 2, let's see how we do here. And this is a pretty good opener. We unfortunately draw a bird with the equip spell, so, you know, that's a lot less useful to us. But we do also have this Witch of the Black Forest here. And we've got a pretty good spell and trap lineup. We're just going to set a Witch, set the Mystical Space Typhoon here, and they will flip up a Maneater to pop the Witch. We'll just grab a Sangan, as that can deal with the Maneater. They're going to attack in for 450 there. Set one, set another, pass back to us. And we're just going to summon out Sonic Bird. They're going to think about this, and they're going to actually trap hole the Sonic Bird. So we will be able to grab a Black Illusion Ritual from deck to hand, and we'll just pass back to them. They're just going to attack in for another 450 here, and they're just going to pass back to us. We draw a Magician of Faith, which could be pretty good at recycling this Red Geki if we do use it up, but we're not going to use it up. We're just going to attack in to the Maneater bug there. We'll pass back to them. They're going to set another pass back to us. And I think this is as good a time as any to fire the Raigeki. We could Black Illusion Ritual out of Relinquished, but that still leaves one set card that we have to deal with. And I think we want to save the Black Illusion Ritual Relinquished combo for when they're down to like one monster on field. So we are going to Raigeki their board away. We do have a Magician of Faith to bring it back if we want to later. Main phase 2, we're just going to set it and pass back to them. We maybe should have set the Solemn here as well, just to prevent them from having a Raigeki or a Change of Heart of their own. But it looks like they don't. They're just going to set one, pass back to us. We do just Magician of Faith to get back the Raigeki, and they're just going to admit defeat because we've got a very, very powerful board here. It seems like they just have spell and trap removal and not really much else to do here. So, you know, I think this shows how oppressive the Relinquished deck can be in these games. As, you know, if you manage to pull off the combo and get it online before your opponent can do anything, it can be brutally controlling, and you can just chip into your opponent's life points each turn and prevent them from actually sticking anything on board. It does have some major flaws. I think it is very fragile in a lot of situations, but if you are able to sort of bolster your board with Solemn Judgments and the like, then I think it can be incredibly, incredibly good. But that's going to do it for today's video. I hope that you enjoyed it as always. Let me know what your thoughts are on this deck down below. There are many different ways you can build the Relinquished deck, and I'm curious to see what you guys would put into this deck. And also what you think about this deck in general. I'm also curious on where you guys think this deck falls in the meta as a whole. I think that it's firmly in tier 2, like a very, very good tier 2 deck, but I think it's just a little bit too fragile to actually be like a major meta contender. But I think that it does have some very good potential. So let me know what you all think of it down below. And until next time, I've been Ben from YGO from Zero, and I'm signing off.